is the More Walker.
Evitel, what are you doing all the way out here?
Oh, hi Taliesin. I'm just doing some very important world quests.
You have to get back to Elysian Hold right now. The Archon is under attack.
What?
Anduin's gone all emo and bad and is totally killing her. You have to stop it.
Oh no, this is terrible. But don't worry, I'm the champion of Bastion. If anyone can stop this disaster, it's me. Let's go save the Archon.
Oh, thank goodness. What's the matter?
Nothing, it's just I haven't quite finished upgrading my teleportation network yet.
What?
Can you lend me some anima real quick?
What?
Just like 10k or whatever.
Evie!
Oh, never mind. It takes like an hour to upgrade anyway. Oh, I think there's a flight path around here somewhere. It shouldn't take too long. Let's go save the Archon.
Knowledge is power.
Hello, Internet. Taliesin here, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Reset, Taliesin and Evitel's wondrous wisdom show in a week where not much happened, you know, just the entire future of the World of Warcraft, because it is Blizzconline, baby, and we got all of the big Shadowlands and classic reveals. The day before BlizzConline, when all of the news, promotional screenshots and press kits were put up on Blizzard's Press Center website for the entire world to see, which the entire world did. And yeah, that kind of sucks, because leaks suck, even if this wasn't so much a leak as someone in the office accidentally leaving the tap on and flooding the entire downstairs apartment. And of course, my heart goes out not just to the people in the community who got accidentally spoiled for the news when they didn't want it to be, not just for myself, who has to look at these things for my job, even though I didn't really want to spoil myself, not just for the devs who create all of these cool things that were supposed to be announced to shock and wonderment and fanfare, but also to the poor sorry bastard who actually did the goof and put this stuff out there with one simple typo. The BlizzConline February 2021 announcement appearing on the press kit timeline far down the page with Mists of Pandaria stuff. Mists, of course, which came out in 2012, which suggests that whoever was scheduling these posts simply fat-thumbed 2012 as the date of release rather than 2021. And that is objectively funny, obviously, but still, I know what it's like to goof, my friend, and my heart goes out to you. But those of you who weren't spoiled with the foreknowledge of just about everything that was about to be revealed, actually, even if you were, there was still plenty to enjoy and get excited about by this first, hopefully only ever, BlizzConline. Because yeah, this was fun and all, guys. It was nice to have a BlizzCon experience without jet lag and in the comfort of my own home, but let's never do it again, okay? I miss hugs and beers and overpriced food and just general sweaty, nerdy fun times with like-minded fam. I miss this. Hello, Internet, and hello, Anaheim, California! Let's do it properly next time, shall we agree on that? But with that said, it was a really interesting and well put together show, from J. Allen Brack delivering some very deep insights in the opening ceremony.
30 years is so many years.
That's why he gets the big bucks, through the WoW announcements and What's Next panel, all the way to the WoW Q&A. It was far from the janky Zoom meeting BlizzCon some of us had feared. It's the WoW news that we all care about, and in the case of here at T&E, Shadowlands and 9.1 in particular, and it started off very well for us indeed, as John Haidt, my new favourite person on the actual earth, set foot on stage and was just John Haidt for a bit, because honestly, that man can do anything as far as I'm concerned, and I will stan it.
Kyrian, take flight!
I love you, John Haidt.
Nightbane, let the hunt begin.
I love you, John Haidt.
Necrolords, to war!
Oh god, I love you, John Haidt.
Cynthia, let's party.
John Haidt, you're amazing!
The world is thrown.
I didn't know John Haidt did every voice in WoW. And straight off the bat, gave us something that even us spoiled leak devourers hadn't seen, alongside the official announcement of the new patch, Chains of Domination. A new cinematic, and not just any cinematic, but an absolute stonker. And I know what you're thinking, but Taliesin, all Blizz cinematics are absolute stonkers. That's a total given. To which I say, all? But also, no, because this one is particularly good. It being the only one of these that I think I've ever seen that actually managed to fill me with dread and anxiety as Anduin, who we last saw on the verge of being compelled into the jailer's service by Sylvanas, don't forget, strides into Elysian Hold past a heartbreakingly broken and dejected Bluther, revealing himself as new possessed emo Anduin, killing the Archon, or at least totally stealing her soul and delivering it back to his boss, who, by the way, has a zone on chains now, as Sylvanas looks on with seemingly a seed of doubt about the whole thing planted somewhere in her black and loveless soul. Obviously, we are going to do a full cinematic analysis video on this basically as soon as this video is published, because there is so much to talk about, from Bluther's recognition of the jailer and maybe Arthas's presence in Anduin, to the very long in the works and finally realised Anduin Arthas parallels that these cinematics have been painstakingly drawing for us since the start of BFA, to showing us that Anduin is still in there somewhere and presumably capable of being saved, to those 5 keys that the jailer is supposedly collecting, to Il'gynoth's whispers and being able to tie all of this back to that tentacly boy, and loads more besides. As well as being beautiful, it is a lore and speculation treasure trove. I can't wait. Holy crap, did they just throw all credibility for the expansion down the drain. This whole video and what it implies for the other factions is a massive arse pull by Blizz. No, sorry, we don't have time for that shit today. For now, just let me say that the combination of Anduin waltzing into an in-game area that a quarter of players call home and spawn into when they log into the game each day, and then just trashing the place and taking out their leader is just so ballsy and ridiculous, and brings the danger of what's happening so powerfully into our cozy late patch existence that it really is a masterful way of introducing a new patch, in my opinion. And here's a funny thing, I think I actually enjoyed this cinematic more because I'd seen the spoilers. There's a new charity pet that is a sloth and it rides on your back. And yes, I know that's an odd thing to bring up at this moment of high drama, but don't blame me, okay? It wasn't my idea to pivot that hard. Blame John. Except don't blame John, because he's perfect. Yeah, I'm still thinking about the Archon too, but also, and I don't think we say this enough, this is a sloth pet and it sits on your back. I'll take 10, thanks. And coupled with the predictable, even without a leak, Burning Crusade Classic announcement, this was a very good start for all fans of World of Warcraft. Whew. And so to the Warcraft What's Next panel, which we hoped would be giving us all of the juicy details of Chains of Domination that we already knew, and more besides. And there is only one man for the job when it comes to the big stuff, and that is Ian Hazakostis, live from inside his microwave on the Death Star, who didn't really say a lot actually, except to basically shit on BFA systems, and that's fine, we're all here for that. And Jeremy Fiesel, the People's Champion, who absolutely would have important and exciting stuff to tell us right after we watch the cinematic again. And you know what, that's fair enough, because it's a good cinematic. And then, finally, the 9.1 talk. How, in Chains of Domination, we would be taking the fight to the maw with the 4 covenants united, or the 3.5 covenants, and promises of new areas, new enemies, and new rewards. Those areas? The maw, of course, but more, including sections which have changed since the covenants gained footholds there, new sections that we haven't seen before, and one new section in particular, Korthia, a long-lost zone in the Shadowlands, which fell between the cracks, as it were, aeons ago, and which the jailer has dragged back into his own domain for reasons we don't know. In fact, we don't know much about Korthia at all, apart from the fact that there's also some Ouroboros structures and Ouroboros-style attendants and first ones, and if you're wondering why we aren't showing you any pictures of all that exciting sounding stuff on the screen right now, well, that's because basically there weren't any, and I know what you're thinking, and I'm thinking it too. We're going to get to that, I promise. I think it would be dangerous to think of Korthia as a new zone in the style of, say, Nathria or the Broken Shore. The implication is that it's going to be nowhere near so substantial. It's more a part of a general opening out of the maw as a whole. The Eye of the Jailer time limit on being in the zone is gone. You can now mount in the zone normally, and yes, that noise you can hear is 90% of the player base all abandoning the twisting corridors en masse and forever, never to be seen again. But of course, there's also the Torghast raid, the Sanctum of Domination, a raid which, okay, yeah, so it's more, and if you like the more, then it's more of what you like, but if you don't, and you find the more an eyesore, then more is sure to feel like a chore. But let's see what's in store, because this raid is so chock full of lore that it rivals Tomb of Sargeras or Antorus for sheer importance and story impact. Because we are fighting Kel'Thuzad. We are fighting the Eye of the Jailer, which it is strongly hinted has something to do with Odin, which I can tell you has speculation YouTubers rubbing our greedy little hands together with delight, thinking of all the excellent videos that we're going to make. We are fighting the Terragru in a fight that clearly has to be like a super buffed version of the Arthur's Chase in Halls of Reflection, with our Torghast buddy juggernauting down a corridor towards us, and our raid party like attacking bits of scenery to make it collapse behind us and slow him down, collecting anima powers as we go until we are powerful enough to turn round and kill him for good. We are fighting, and I quote, some of the worst souls in existence, which is vague and basically, as I see it, a flat-out challenge to the community to pick and campaign for a whole bunch of their favourite baddie lore characters that will be included in the raid. And I'd like to take this moment to just remind you that 2 different Gul'dans have died on Azeroth, and I would very much like a raid fight against both of them at the same time. And I know most of you are going to say Arthas or Garrosh and stuff, and that's fine, but you're missing out on the majesty of the Twin Gul'dan Royal Rumble. That's all I'm saying. I pity you. But most important of all, of course, we are squaring off against Sylvanas in an encounter which might include new baddie Anduin, or may not, but which inevitably will have huge consequences in the story in one way or another. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, why aren't you showing pictures of that? It sounds great. And that's because, apart from a couple of press pics and some concept art, again, there aren't any. There's new layers to Torghast and new anima powers and new enemies to fight, like this Tin Man looking mofo, who I'm going to go ahead and assume hunter pets are useless against, since he appears to have come dressed as one of those attack dog training suits. There's the new mythic only mega dungeon to play the heck out of for 2 weeks and then ignore until it becomes 2 separate Mythic Plus dungeons a patch later. Focused on those Oscar Pistorius looking mofos, the Brokers, a grand bazaar full of even more new lore and a heist section in the second half, which takes us to completely different locations to make our eyes feel nice again after all that more. And if you think that is something that you would like to see more pictures of, and I don't blame you, it sounds awesome, maybe one of those little mini tours through the dungeon using the in-game camera that we often get for new instances? Well, tough shit, because we haven't really got any of that either, to be honest, but we do have an infinite pirate dragon, so hey. And while we're looking at fun pictures, here's a look at some of those rewards we mentioned, like mounts and pets and a mount in the shape of a hand. And no, I'm not going to make the joke, you'll just have to imagine the joke. And new Sanctum transmog, which is essentially RP transmog and can be worn by all armor classes. And honestly, I think that's pretty baller. And if you're not careful, then that Kyrian Grecian robe thing might show you a bit more baller than you were expecting. And speaking of Sanctums, we've got the new Covenant mounts that will come when we unlock flying with our renown at some point. And they're all really awesome, and sorry Maldraxxus, you gotta fly, but all the others are really awesome, if not entirely surprising, but that's another cool thing to look forward to. There's new Covenant story chapters, of course, and the new PvP and Mythic Plus season, with a new Mythic Plus affix, which I guess you'd like to see or know more about, but we've got nothing to tell you or show you, I'm afraid, and we don't have anything concrete to tell you about the expanding Conduit and Soulbind systems. Although those are apparently definitely a thing that's going to happen. And that concludes the What's Next panel. And before anything else, let me say that in my opinion at least, patch 9.1 sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds really big and substantial. A super lore heavy new raid, a mythic mega dungeon, a new Covenant story, and a new mini zone. And I like the idea that the Maw is just becoming more friendly to represent how we're gaining ground against the Jailer. For a 0.1 patch, it compares very favorably in terms of the sheer amount of content to any other 0.1 patch in history. It genuinely, and I can't stress this enough, sounds great. But there lies the rub. It sounds great, and the fact that they don't have anything much of Korthia to show us, the fact that there isn't any footage of the new dungeon or the raid, no sizzle reel of new features, the fact that the new system expansions are described as being very early in the ideas stage. Look, I don't want to bang on about this, okay, because I feel like I've been banging on about this every week of 2021 so far, but this kind of proves that I was right to be worried. All the signs would appear to point towards patch 9.1 being like 30 years away at this point, and as J. Allen Brack himself told me,
30 years is so many years.
And yes, there are very understandable reasons for that, and as a human being I can totally understand, but as a player it is a major concern, because I'm no game dev, but I have played a lot of WoW. I've got some vague sense of the rhythm of how Blizz do things, and with the lack of footage or concrete specifics in this presentation, my worst case scenario voice is telling me that this patch could be as far away as September, and that would be an absolute disaster, no matter how excited we all are about TBC Classic. Because as good as all of this stuff sounds, and it genuinely does, it's not going to keep doing dailies and updating your gear with Valor Points fun for 6 more months. However much more there is in Chains of Domination than the 0.1 patches of other expansions, it doesn't mean so much if that patch arrives so much later than other 0.1 patches. And honestly, it makes me wonder if Shadowlands is even going to have a 0.3 patch, which would be such a waste of the seemingly endless potential of the Shadowlands setting. And I am not trying to piss on anyone's chips here, okay? I'm really not. And I hope I'm wrong. If I am, I would be delighted, because this is a genuinely exciting future for the expansion. Not to mention one that, in blowing the Maw and Torghast and maybe Sylvanas and the Brokers, leaves the way open for some surprising and unexpected patches beyond this one too. I guess the question is, will it be worth the wait? Or, if it really is as far off as many of us suspect, could any patch be worth the wait? And speaking of the future, I'm recording this segment on Saturday after the opening ceremony and the What's Next panel. As always, there will be links to Wowhead articles below that will give you even more information, but of course, it's BlizzCon, which means the WoW Q&A and countless dev interviews, doling out even more information and clarifications, which Evie, recording her segment on Sunday, is going to do her best to give you some kind of roundup for now. Good luck!
Yeah, thanks for that. And it's perhaps inevitable that in a patch announcement that was so lacking in specifics in many ways, there would be a lot more questions being asked at other Blizzconline panels and third-party interviews, and a whole lot more answers, clarifications, and juicy golden info nuggets to chow down on. And those dev interviews may have all concluded at the time of recording this, but not every one of those interviews have been published or read by me yet. So I'm going to give you a whistle-stop recap of some of my highlights, and man, there are some doozies. But please don't treat this as a definitive list. And also, due to the sheer volume of new information coming out all of the time, I'm going to be keeping this section to Shadowlands news. Okay, let's begin. No, we don't have time for any of your fancy and very skillfully implemented graphics, Taliesin. So let's begin with the WoW Q&A. Traditionally a source of some of the best reveals, since Blizz are able to cherry-pick questions that they know have good or interesting answers. Like when Eli Cannon confirmed there would be no more new character customizations introduced in Shadowlands. Uh-oh.
Absolutely shocking, and a letdown on a colossal scale!
No, I'm really sorry, but we don't have time for that shit. This is an info dump. But yeah, people aren't happy about that. Blizz said that new customizations were ongoing. They technically still are. But no, your Nightborn isn't getting more faces to choose from anytime soon. Sorry. John Haidt clarified that the Wandering Ancient mount will be coming in patch 9.0.5, and that players will receive it just for logging in, as expected. And the mount looks exactly like we hoped too, by the way, complete with changing leaf colors to represent the cycle of the seasons. Steve Denuser confirmed that the Archon was not killed in the Kingsmorn cinematic, so you can all relax. It also kind of suggests that Eternal Ones can't actually be killed, what with us keeping the incredibly dangerous and also confirmed by Denuser very likely to escape Sire Denathrius in a sword after defeating him. Ian double confirmed that flying would remain an account-wide achievement in 9.1, despite Pathfinder now being tied to progressing renown and completing the story campaign. And in probably the most insightful moment of the whole panel, basically said that we should expect cross-faction PvE grouping at some point in the future, saying that while faction identity is sacred and to be preserved, there comes a point where you just have to prioritize fun and letting people play with their friends. There's going to be a lot of commentary on this comment across the community in the coming weeks and months, so I'm just going to plant my flag right now and say, yo, I'm all for it. Some cool Forsaken rogue wants to come along with our alliance for our Nathria clear this week? Sounds awesome, why not? I mean, as long as I can still gank her outside the raid entrance in war mode before and after, why not? In the brilliant Evolution of Thrall panel featuring Christy Golden, Taryn Gregory, and Sean Copeland, Christy hinted very strongly that there is an in-game reunion on the cards for the war chief and his mom, Draka, saying, the Shadowlands is a pretty big place, but it's also smaller than you think. Which was to be expected, but you know, mommy is very busy kicking ass and taking names at the moment, so just be a good boy and sit quietly in the corner for a bit longer, okay? Someone give Thrall a snack and switch on Coco Melon to keep him occupied while mommy liberates Maldraxxus, okay? Moving on from official BlizzCon panels and onto media interviews, we're mostly looking for devs making mistakes and telling us more than they should outside the safe confines of the BlizzCon bubble. And you sense that definitely happened in the Starting Zone podcast's interview with People's Champion Jeremy Fiesel and Frank Kowalkowski, revealing some uninvited guests in the story campaign of our new area Korthia. Our friends the Dreadlords return, and we're going to be going into their story and what they're doing here and who they are working for, and that'll unlock their own series of content as well. And okay, that is massive! Shadowlands has been pretty explicitly dropping Dreadlord hints all expansion so far, so to have it confirmed that they'll be arriving in 9.1 is very exciting, and yes, you'd better believe we'll be making videos about it. Man, I love those guys. In the meantime, check out Talie's video about Dreadlords in the Shadowlands from last year for a primer. Also in that interview, it was confirmed that 9.1 would bring with it another 40 renown levels to unlock. And we've heard Jeremy say in Wowhead's other interview that you'll be able to see the story of each covenant no matter which covenant your character is in. That sounds like a long way of saying it's the same story for each covenant to me, but Jeremy says you'll have extra little quest elements depending on your covenant, so we'll wait and see. Ian has also said in a PC Gamer interview that since we are killing the Terragru in the new raid, it and the death counter would be removed as a fail state from Torghast and replaced with something else, saying that the current system of dying and finishing with no soul ash is, quote, one of the worst experiences ever in World of Warcraft. And like, don't hold back, Ian, say what you really think. Instead, the new system will mean you never leave empty-handed, even if you don't complete the instance. Wowhead's interview with Jeremy Fiesel revealed that raid tier sets would be making a return in a patch later than 9.1, and that the gear transmogs in Sanctum of Domination would be recolors of the current legendary appearances. And I hope you like those appearances, because he also said further recolors of those appearances were likely to be used as other rewards throughout the expansion. We got an insight into how Blizz will iterate on the current Shadowlands systems in 9.1 as well. Eurogamer's interview with Ian already confirmed there wouldn't be any new systems coming. Soul's interview with Kevin Martins and Johnny Cash telling us about empowered conduits. You can take individual conduit slots and empower them to unveil more power or abilities. And Frank Kowalkowski said in the Wowhead interview that although there won't be any new soulbinds in Chains of Domination, the existing trees will be getting new rows and conduits too.
Oh, well, what a weekend that was.
It has definitely been a weekend.
You've changed your top for the third time this video.
I know.
It's because this has
Can you
taken
tell?
3 days.
Continuity.
Just like BlizzCon. I think I've seen more actual BlizzCon than I've ever seen before.
Well, that's the thing, when we're at actual BlizzCon, we don't see anything.
Basically, if we're not hosting it, we don't care. We're not even there. We're at the food stalls, you know.
Well, yeah, but it's like, you know, we never get a chance to actually see most of the panels.
No,
this was a nice treat.
After the Q&A yesterday, we had it on the big TV, and then the community night came on. I was like, I've literally never seen the community night.
No,
like, it's
we've
amazing,
never been
obviously,
able
and
to
we've
see
always
it.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like, you guys community night? It's like, no, I'm editing a video. One of the good things about like the remote nature of this year's BlizzCon was like the remote nature of the people taking part. Like all these creators from like Trinidad and Tobago.
So cool, so
like, all these
cool, and
China and Russia,
extremely talented people all over the world.
who
And
wouldn't have been there otherwise.
exactly, and I haven't. We're quite lucky because we get press passes, but like if you actually have to buy tickets, that is Lots of people don't get them.
Well, especially when you're carrying like a huge spider cosplay with you as well. You try getting that through Chinese customs, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. That's all I'm saying.
He's gonna send in a video. So yeah, it was really cool that that's how it happened this year. Actually,
At the same time, though, let's never do it like this again, please.
No.
Congrats,
Yes,
Blizz,
please.
for putting on such a great show. I thought. I
then
really
it was
enjoyed it
very,
all.
very shiny and quite cool.
Yeah,
I liked
yeah.
It was, really
It was
good.
like pretty much all pre-recorded, and I wouldn't have minded some of it being live, you know, for that kind of com feel. Like it makes sense for some of the panels, like the Thrall one and stuff, to be pre-recorded and edited down. But I don't know, man. I was kind of hoping the Q&A.
I know. Or like even like being able to mix in kind of like a live host.
No, seriously though, amazing job. Everyone
So
involved
cool.
at Blizz, incredible, and well done all the creators and members of the community who took part as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We did a watch party on Twitch.
We did.
And
That was a
thoroughly
lot of
enjoyed
fun.
it for the opening ceremony. That was great. So thank you to everyone that came to that, and thank you everyone that came to our new Twitch show last week as well that we were trying out. Just a practice run.
The grind.
The grind. Rise and grind. With Taliesin Evitel. I want to call it Rise and Grind. She just wants to call it the grind. So
Sounds
basically,
a bit sexier than it
she
really
always
is.
says the grind, and I always say Rise and Grind. I don't know. It's that's how it
Listen,
is.
it's called the grind.
It's called
Our
Rise and
Mirth
Grind.
will say Rise and Grind.
So it's our breakfast show that we do, much like this, except there'll be WoW playing as well, and we're going through the news. We did a dry run of it last week, and the proper launch for it is on Monday.
Tomorrow.
Yes, that's right. Lots of you came to watch it, and thank you very, very much. And if you want to come and join us at 10 a.m. UK time,
Yes.
on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, although we're looking at changing that. That's just when the boys in daycare.
We'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
what's
we'll have a
going
look. But that's what it is at the moment. Maybe we'll talk more about BlizzCon then. But
Maybe
very
we will.
quickly, what did you think of like the announcements and what have you? Anyway, 9.1. What's your general feeling?
I'm excited, but it feels like it's a
You
long way
don't sound
away.
excited, Evitel. I'm just saying, like, I've seen you excited, and that's not it.
There's I mean, we got lots of concepts. We have lots of ideas.
Yeah, I think everyone's main worry at the moment is just how far away it's going to be.
Not seeing the actual stuff yet.
Okay, so like I've already talked about that in my segment, but I did read an interview today, and I forget who it was by. When I find it, I'll put it in the description below, where a dev said that the PTR or the alpha or the beta of 9.1 will be going up once 9.05 is live.
Right.
And of course, John Haidt says 9.05 is going live next month.
In March.
Yeah, and John Haidt is always right. When he says something's going live at a certain time, always happens. So that would suggest that actually maybe my worst case scenario of like September, and that's not a prediction, that's like a worst case possibility, suggests that's not going to be the case, and it's going to be like, summer or something.
Summer-ish.
Still a long old
Still,
way.
yeah,
isn't
I
it?
was gonna say summer feels like a very long way away.
Yeah. Of course, not the last video about BlizzCon that we'll be doing.
No.
There's so much to talk about. We've got Dreadlords, we've got baddie Anduin, we've got possible cross-faction, Horde and Alliance like PvE play to talk about, and more besides, not to mention the cinematic analysis video that I'm going to start work on pretty much as soon as this is edited
ASAP.
and up there. I cannot wait. It's going to be
Yeah.
brilliant. But thank you for joining us for this video. If you liked it, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real life money still
They
to make
do.
all of our work happen. Guys, thank you. Oh, we should do a patron get together in lieu of BlizzCon, shouldn't we?
We should, yeah.
We'll do like an AMA on the Discord or something like that. It would
Just
be
to
good.
chill.
A live stream.
Hang out on Discord.
Work out how to make that happen, because
I will.
I don't know. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Mr. GM. Mr. GM, who took our interview with John Haidt
I mean,
and
after we-
Brian Birmingham.
Which we gave.
Well, he didn't mug us
you
and
say
steal it.
take,
No. Well, so we were supposed to have an interview with Brian Birmingham and John Haidt about Burning Crusade Classic, and we were like, yeah, this is great, but just for extra research, we were asking Mr. GM loads of questions about Classic, stuff we didn't know, and then we were just like, I think Mr. GM could do this interview better than us. So we phoned Blizzard and we were like, hey, is it... And we were like, they'll probably say no because they want us so much.
Yeah.
And we were like, is it okay? And they were like, yeah, sosounds great. And we were
like,
like, you don't have to say, I mean, are you sure? Wouldn't you miss us? And they were like, who are you again? And we were like, okay, bye. And Mr. GM did an amazing interview. It was fantastic. So go and check that out as well. That's why I said Mr. GM at the end there.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah.
It makes sense.
My name's not Mr. GM, it's
No,
Taliesin. From me, Taliesin.
And me, Evitel.
Until next time, cheerio.